any of these corners, these two houses are friendly to our cause.
Yeah. And so are Officer Chris and I and the rest of the Annapolis Police Department. So we're friendly to your cause, but I did want to talk to you about private property. So if you were to go on any piece of property that's private property, it could be this yard here, we would warn you that, hey, that's private property, please don't go on it. And then hopefully you would say, hey, Officer Davis, thanks for being so nice about it. That is private property, and I'll walk off that private property.
Is it bizarre to be called by rich people all the time to get poor people off their grass?
I don't get a lot of calls for that, actually. If you want to go on a ride along, we can set you up with one, and you can kind of see how the police in Annapolis work and how the calls for service that we go on.
Because one of the women said she used to work here. Do you need help? Sorry.
It's a nice contraption.
It's really good when it works, but now let's give it some.
Why is it
Now
like
watch.
that?
You gotta hit
Oh.
it quick, and then make sure that you get your stuff lined up.
It is lined up. I did that okay.
Good.
Sorry about that.
You're
We're the
good.
Arundel Patriot too. Here's my card.
Gotcha. I'll give you my card also. So what I was saying is, we encourage anyone who does have questions about kind of the Annapolis Police Department, how we do things, general calls for service, feel free to sign up for a ride along. And that will give you kind of a first-hand look on the calls for services that we get. This is a microphone, or you just... Okay, I was wondering.
Well, it's a social distance way to interview people.
Oh,
Now,
gosh.
and you're not wearing a mask, so I don't want to get too close
I'm
to you.
not. My COVID is negative, and you had one on, so I thought we were good. I can go put one on, though, if that makes
Yes.
you feel more comfortable.
Well, because here's the point of that is that you're keeping even, like you. When were you negative?
A couple of weeks ago.
Right, but you could have walked out of that
Very,
test. And
very good
got
point,
it.
ma'am.
And if you have to chase somebody down and grab them, you won't
Give
have
me
your
2
mask
seconds
on.
to put a mask on,
Okay.
and I'll finish our
Okay.
conversation.
So, who called you guys to come out here today, Dr.
we-
Officer Chris?
No, we just heard about it, that it was going on. We just saw on Facebook.
Okay, cool.
So
Hi there. Welcome to our demonstration.
Hey.
You want to go see? Oh, this is nice. Yeah. So, I'm Vicki Bruce. This is the Arundel Patriot. We just jumped on the mic. I know it was earlier we weren't getting sound. Are we getting sound now? Can somebody give us a sound check?
Sound check.
Sound check. Can you hear us?
Please.
Hello, hello. Is anybody watching? All right, tell us, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Right in the comment section. Looks like more people are coming. That's cool. All right. Hi, gentlemen. Are you here to demonstrate to end racism in Annapolis? Thank you.
Signs, you can. I have some extra stuff here.
We're protesting against racism if you'd like to join us.
He doesn't. I have a question. Well, I'm not going to ask controversial questions.
So what brought you guys out here today?
Well, I saw about this on Facebook. I forget where, just, popped up. And we've been in the city for a while now, since 2015. We've definitely seen the inequality. We live on the other side of President Street. So we're just here for the same reason as anyone else. We're tired.
Tired of?
Tired of inequality, tired of injustice.
Are you guys related?
Yeah. I'm his dad.
Okay, cool. Father-son protesting on Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, sir. We appreciate you guys being out here.
The issue is this is going to get hot.
Okay, so let's then we can trade off phones. So we might have to cut the live feed. Are people hearing us? Hi, ladies. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Vicki Bruce with the Arundel Patriot.
Hi, Vicki. My name is Linda.
Hi, Linda. This is a mic, and it's a social distance mic. I just asking people why they decided to join this demonstration today.
I'm very active with Black Lives Matters. All of their demonstrations I try to attend, and I'm a local resident here as well.
And what have you seen in Annapolis as far as inequality and race relations since you've been here?
I'm a third generation here, and it's a lot of it is a financial. It's financial. It's a lot of everything, and then a lot of just nothing. There are very few people left that are middle class in this area, so I find that disturbing as well.
Yeah, so if you're standing where we are right now, there are multi-million-dollar homes behind you. President's Point.
People where we're at.
Yeah, we are on Boucher and President Street in the Eastport neighborhood of Annapolis, Maryland. If you go down President Street this way, it is many public housing units. In the 1960s, there was a concerted effort to move poor people, and especially people of color, black people, out of historic Annapolis. Became a tourist town, and we have almost what's like reservations where there are no services, and sort of by design, this area has gotten more and more unequal over the years. And I started making a film 17 years ago, and I interviewed Pip Moyer.
If you guys want to make signs, we have like some paper there, and that little bucket has.
Or you can grab one of those signs. Anyway, 70 years ago, Pip Moyer told me, he said he had to play basketball. His mom would send him out to play with the white kids because the black kids, the people would call the police and make them leave the basketball courts. So when I heard that, people are still calling and saying there are African American people walking on my lawn, that we have to address this inequality as white people. So thank you for coming out. What's your name, ma'am?
Hi, I'm Janet Holbrook. I'm from Crownsville. I just think white people need to start showing up. When I first got more awakened, or after the 2016 election, we thought, like, I'm in WISE, organization in Severna Park, and we reached out to black women. Severna Park's a pretty white place, and come join us, you're natural allies. And they said, well, where are you on our Black Lives Matter vigils that were happening every Friday night? And I think they're right, So I just want to show up because I think we haven't showed up. And, and I do feel like we're at a civil rights moment. And it won't get us to perfect, but it will get us to better.
Thank you for coming out. I appreciate the support, especially from people in our demographic. I'm also friends with a lot of the WISE women, and I appreciate everything they do. But it is time, and I think one of my black friends said after Ahmaud Arbery was hunted down and murdered, what are you doing, white people? And I realized that I myself had dropped the ball, and this has to be a constant conversation until we fix it, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, no, I think I actually I'm not trying to advertise, but I do write a column in the Capitol for WISE, and one of Jen Haber, my colleague, told me, I have to find topics, and sometimes it's hard, and she said every topic has to have this in it. It's related to so much of, as you were talking about, economic inequality, education inequality, environmental justice. I mean, it's just intertwined.
Thank you so much. Yasmin, I have an idea. I'd like to bring the speaker over here and have people testify and give their stories about why they're here today on the loudspeaker. Can we do that?
Sure we can.
Thank you. Here. And I'll hold this mic at the same time. And you can enlist some people to help you, I'm sure. Thank you for coming out. We're going to set up a microphone speaker system and just have people come and talk about why they're here today. If you'd like to participate, if not, that's cool too. And we really appreciate you being out here.
Hello.
Hey,
Yeah.
can I ask you
Sure.
just one more question
Can you
before
guys
things
hear
get a
me?
little busy? And can I
Okay.
just, before I started to ask you sort of about just the legacy of this neighborhood and, having done the research you have, sort of how you view,
Hello?
this event and how you view just the changes in Eastport. I guess, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would say, it's very sad. It's very sad to see so much wealth. And I mean, I can take my camera and I can show you down this street, and I'll drive down there later and I'll show people who aren't from this area. There is very, very
Hello.
extreme poverty.
Hello.
One couple blocks away from these $1 million houses that put signs up and they block people from even seeing the creek. So there's no crabbing anymore. There's no kids jumping off piers and going swimming. There's none of that. In fact, instead there's white people who live in, you know, $500,000 houses that call the police on the kids that are there. These are 20-somethings that were walking on their property, and yes, it's private property, and this is this extreme, this view I get from white people all the time is that, hey, it was private property, they were breaking the law. And I say the law has always been for white people. You know, the law has always been slavery, the law was for white people. Discrimination, segregation, it was for white people. So, hi Colin. Colin, can you be my cameraman?
Sure. I'm writing a quick post.
Okay. So if you come out to my protest, you'll also get a job.
Has anything they want to say?
Can you go in the shade so people could stand over there? I don't want everybody to fry.
And then, of course, you know, I thought of water access and people's ability to, I guess, engage with fixing the environment, but then just engage with their own natural world. Is something I know, you know,
No, you're not in
is
the way.
limited in
I'm
a lot of
just,
communities
You
of
know,
color.
if anybody wants to come,
I guess, is that something you're thinking of at all? About
Can you hear me?
access to natural resources and access to the water.
Absolutely. I wrote an article for the Arundel Patriot, which is my media company, and I said, you know, there is this inequality by design. I mean, they've really, the developers have really
and I'm going to
put
the mic
side
here
to
for
side
anybody who-
houses or condos against the water and just built a wall. And it's a wall for rich people to keep out poor people. And it's from nature, you know, which is just horrible. So it's a big problem. And I think that, you know, many cities have been so much better planned with parks going up, and I know Gavin has something planned at City Dock, the mayor. I feel like in each of these neighborhoods there should be some kind of eminent domain, or the city buying a property, creating a park, creating a place for people that don't have $2 million to buy property here, that they can actually see the water. I mean, people will say this is the most beautiful place in the world, and yet most people don't even have access to even look at the water. Hi there. Hi, everybody.
Well, I'll be sure to listen to folks as they get up and talk.
Okay. All right, I'm going to intro. Okay. Hey, everyone. Can you hear me on this cool system? Thank you. This is really cool. Thank you all for coming out here. I really wanted to see a lot of people that needed a lot of sunscreen to be out here in the sun today. Because as we know, and as you know, and I'm preaching to the choir, but racism is a white people issue. And it is not for black people to prove they are good enough to have what we have. And I've been in this town for 20 years now, and when I first came here, I was astounded by the segregation. It has only gotten worse. And when I'm in this beautiful area and I see extreme, you know, poverty on one side and extreme wealth on the other side, and signs up that say no trespassing, I believe that we have to learn to do better. And we don't want to live in the inequality capital of the world, which is what this has become. Postcard Perfect Annapolis. 70 years ago, Pip Moyer, who was living on 4th Street in Annapolis, in Eastport, his mother, he was about 10 years old, and his mother said, Pip, you need to go out and play on the basketball courts, because the courts here are much nicer than they are in the black neighborhood, and so the police will come and throw the black kids off unless you go out there and play with them. I believe that same thing would happen today. It still does. And recently, a friend of mine was walking, and he was going on private property, and somebody called the cops and telling the cops that there were African Americans on the property. Could the cops come and make sure they move along? The Annapolis police have come to tell me that about private property laws. this is something that a lot of white people have told me over the last week who've tried to dissuade me from having this protest. They've said, well, Vicki, you don't understand. They were breaking the law. So my response to that is, that's your car. That's my producer, Yasmin. Thank you, Yasmin. So what I say to that is, white people have used the law as a weapon against black people since they were brought here, right? So slavery was for white people, and it was against the law to run away and run from your slave owner. And it was against the law for a black person to go to Annapolis High School, which is now Maryland Hall, where we all go to the symphony, right? So all of this stuff is, it's our turn to stand up. And I'd love to hear from every one of you about, like, what are we going to do? And another thing is access to the water, how this whole area has been so developed that there's a wall of rich whiteness that blocks poverty. And in this town, it's segregated by color and economics, and it blocks them from actually crabbing. Little kids can't go jump off a pier into the water because there are hostile signs, and there are these gentlemen who get called by the rich white people, and these using the police as a weapon against poverty and against people wanting to see the water. So that's why I'm here. I appreciate all of you being out here. I created the Arundel Patriot with my friends, and in order to get these kind of messages out, it's a free online news source. It's arundelpatriot.org. We like to get subscribers with our Patreon account, which is like $5 a month. It would seriously help us buy equipment like this and do events like this. So thank you for coming out.
I have a question.
And Yasmin has a question.
Is there, maybe the police, I don't know who can answer that, but like all these rich communities, gated communities and stuff, do they all have no trespassing? Yeah. Pretty much? I can answer that. Here,
Can you keep the mic?
Actually, if you don't mind me talking,
Yes.
I have something I want to say.
Thank you.
So, I'm just going to pull my mask down so you can hear me. But I live just a block away from here, and the one community that actually probably has public access, but it hasn't been made available, is my understanding is that the tan townhouses down here have a public access to the waterway through those townhouses, but the city has never enforced that. So the city has never, so everybody thinks it's private because the city has never enforced it as a public access. So that's something that, so that's something that people in this neighborhood keep bringing up, but nothing's ever been done about it.
Thanks, Karen. Maybe we go there, Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
But,
go there.
but as areas get developed, they are treated as a block of private housing, and then those areas get cornered off as private property. And it's not just President Point, but Boucher Place right here. There's a street that goes through Boucher Place with sidewalks. That's private property as well. Wow. And then the South Annapolis Yacht Center that's going in, that's all going to be private as well. And so, I mean, that was private before, but the previous owners were pretty flexible with allowing people to use that area to get like the water taxi and stuff.
That's being built right now?
Yeah, it's being built right now.
So what do we do about that?
Well, I mean, we can complain to the city because they promised that developer promised to allow public access when they were trying to get community support for their development, but the city never enforced it. It's not in writing, and it's not happening now because it wasn't put in writing.
Oh, no.
So that's something that we really need to. Can you put that on the microphone?
Yeah, let's put this on the microphone.
So my name's Aaron Axe. Some of you guys may be familiar with me. This is an important issue. I see some good, some old friends. The community in question.
Turn this way. Turn towards right
The community in question here, President's Point, had written into the contract that they were supposed to contribute to a community park here in Annapolis. And why our public officials didn't enforce that contract and actually put in that public park should be part of the question here. What we should also be asking is why they wouldn't use eminent domain to put the park in now. We have a promise of one Annapolis. We have a promise of one Annapolis from our mayor, from Gavin Buckley. Where's one Annapolis in Eastport? Where's one Annapolis in Harbor House in Eastport Terrace right now when young black children can't walk to the park in the same way that young white children can walk to the park just a few blocks away from my house downtown, right? We need to fight for everyone in Annapolis together, and that starts right here in President's Point.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think that we can do that, but we can't just be out here by ourselves. We have to get our friends, our neighbors, our family out here on the street with us and help the city make the right choice and actually get young black people to turn out and vote, because unless they threaten public official seats, no one is ever going to listen to them. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yes. All right, Aaron. All right. Go to City Hall. Let's go to City Hall.
Is this on?
Yeah, just kind of.
I've known Mr. Axe for a couple of years, and my name is Joe Donahue. I'm an attorney in Annapolis. My wife, right here, and my son. We live on the end of Boucher here, the last house on the right before Shearwater. I've been practicing law here for about 5 years, and in the fall of 2018, one family approached, just got a call. I got a call from a family through kind of a random connection, and I realized that the housing authority wasn't paying any attention to their problems in their home. About 8 months later, along with Maryland Legal Aid, we filed a lawsuit against the city and the housing authority, and trying to hold specifically Gavin Buckley accountable, because when he came into office, and I'm happy to share any of these documents with anyone who will listen to me. He actually met with the head of the housing director before he took office in November, after he won the election, while he was the incumbent, or excuse me, while he was, in those couple of weeks before he was actually sworn in, and agreed with the head of the housing authority that he would no longer enforce the city code on the housing authority properties, because basically it was putting the city inspector's office and the HACA maintenance folks under too much stress, and the houses of my clients, you wouldn't want to walk into some of these places.
That is shameful.
I can tell you the saddest thing for me walking through these apartments was that, as white people in Annapolis, we all know where the public housing is. I grew up here. I always had my own, probably prejudicial views of public housing. This is just about learning and realizing that even though you haven't known what was going on, don't know the history, you can learn, you can start doing something right now. So you're going to see more about this in the news in the next couple of months, but please support us and please recognize that we're trying to change all of Eastport because of this issue.
Calling me.
They may be down further this way, I'm not sure.
Anybody else want to say anything? Yeah,
Hi, can you hear me through this mask? I can take it down if need be. My name is Bob. I'm a good friend of several folks that have been activists. Starting when I moved here 3 years ago, I had the good fortune to meet Aaron Axe, and he was naive enough to ask me to be his treasurer in his run for state delegate. Made a great run for it. I also got to meet his field director, and to Aaron's great credit, he mentored and brought in Dwan Gay, our new alderman of Ward 6. Excuse me, 8. I've been thinking about Ward 6 a lot. Yeah, 6. In any case, bottom line, I moved here from Virginia. 3 years in Annapolis. I was lucky to get a waterfront apartment right on the water, seeing the Chesapeake. And during these early days campaigning, I was surprised about no public access. I'm a kid from California. You'd had plenty of access to all the beaches along the shoreline, and frankly, I never thought twice about going to the beach or seeing the water and seeing everybody of every color there, because there's plenty of public access. So when I moved to Eastport, it was a bit of a shock. And then I read about the Tale of Two Cities, that it wasn't recent. 3 years ago. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
But quite frankly, it was several years ago that it was first brought up in an article, if it's Cap Gazette or otherwise, but it talked about the separation in the city, that this didn't make sense. And if you've grown up with any privilege in your life and not known the difference, it can be a daily struggle. Just to grab the hope, grab the comfort of going anywhere in the city, not being profiled, and understanding that you have equal access to live the great American life. That doesn't exist for everybody. And it's still the truth here in Eastport. It's really unfortunate. I've gotten closer to the struggle on a daily basis and with more activism last year than I've ever expected to. And I've met a lot of folks on the ground that are true white allies of the Black Lives Matter movement. And whether you know or not, you are white allies of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Right.
It's so important that we stay engaged. You know, this comes and goes. And if you talk to people who have been there all along, they're so tired of lunches or dinners or barbecues. And then 2 weeks later, it's done. People are no longer involved.
That's right.
And we have the problems persist. And here we are with the same lack of water access. Recently, I've been talking to friends on the point that would love to come out here, but some are restricted because they have COVID. Some are just a little nervous about coming out.
You mean the community? And there's somebody
Yes.
came out and said that actually their board or something was, telling
There
people
are.
not to come out. So.
Well, actually, there are several folks that have reached out to me and Dwan and other friends that are actively engaged in the access issues. And they've told me, please, to share that they want to start the conversation in a real, meaningful way with an end game being true access, not just in Ward 6, but meaningful, impactful, long-term, tangible access for the whole community, and that they're very much committed to that. So on behalf of them, I'm just going to tell you there's several folks, you can count on more than two hands, that truly live across Eastport, not just the point, that want to engage. I wish they were here. I wish they felt safe because of COVID and likes. We got some hands raising. They are here. But I just want you to know that this is not going to go away tomorrow, next week, a month from now. It is here for the long haul. So if you want to be a white ally for the long haul, coming today is not enough. We need you for the long haul. So please engage, follow the leadership, the young leadership that you've seen in protests the last several weeks. With that, I'm going to give it back. I'm just glad that everybody's here and showing your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bob. Can I get some young leadership? I'd like to hear from some young people. I've been so encouraged by you guys being out there.
Hey, I'm Colin. I was raised here, and the thing that I've been thinking about when hearing about this story is, like, can you imagine seeing on the news for 2 straight weeks these protests, and then seeing a couple of black men on a dock and thinking, I'm gonna call the police right now? Like, that's the thing that's, like, shocking, to have that level of, I don't know, callous attitude towards, like, black life. I don't know. That's, like, it's amazing. And, like, the thing that I've been thinking about a lot is, private property is not personal property, right? And to call the police on somebody who's on private property that's not, like, in your house, you would have to have knowledge of every possible person that has access to that dock, right? You would have to know that absolutely not, like, there's no chance that a black man would have access to that dock. And, like, that's messed up, you know what I mean? If you're sitting looking out your window and you see, oh, maybe I'm too far. Yeah. If you're looking at your window and you see black men on a dock, and you're like, I know that they're not supposed to be there. I know for a fact that I can call the police and, like, put these people's lives in danger because I know for a fact that they're not supposed to be there. It says something a lot. It says it says a lot about like this area. It says a lot about like the decisions that we've made with the land that we have around.
That's right.
So, I don't know. Just something to consider, right? It's like maybe if you see something like that, like don't call the police because you don't know. Like you can't know whether they're supposed to be there or whether they're allowed to be there or whether it's like if they're not even bothering anybody, why even bother make a whole moment out of it? You know what I mean? So that's just something to consider. I don't know.
Talk about the real estate on the drive over. All we saw were the
What's that?
The Hyatt signs. Remember, we were like, you know, it's policy, it's deep.
Yeah,
it's strategic.
It's.
A lot of people buy these houses for vacation homes or just to turn them over to make money.
Well, yeah, and it's like these are investment vehicles for a lot of people, and like if they're not investment vehicles, then they're vacation homes, and if they're not vacation homes, then they're just like these cordoned off like safe areas that have like a cool yard and like dock access, but like I don't know, if you're not on the dock in a dispute over whether you or another person owns a kayak, then like why bother calling the police? Like it's insanity to me. I don't know. I'm running out of steam, so I'm gonna pass this off because yeah.
All right, thank you, Colin, and thank you to all the young people.
Hi, I had to come out because he asked for allies, and I'm from WISE, where we're women, indivisible, strong, and effective in Severna Park. And my name's Janet, and I want to relay that when WISE first formed out of the Women's March, Severna Park, I'm in Crownsville, but, pretty racially homogeneous area. And we reached out to people in the Black Lives Matter movement. And they said, why should we show up? Where have you been? We are meeting in Howard County and having candlelight vigils every Friday night. Where are you? So I'm trying to come.
Thank you for being out here and joining the protest. I'd like to hear from more people to say why they're here today. Christy?
Yeah. Are we marching?
Are we marching?
Yeah.
Hi. Okay.
Who was the one who said there's public access through the condos down? Should we march there or should we march down to?
I'm not sure where it is because the city's never marked it out.
All right. All right, so raise up your hands who'd like to walk down President's Point to the front of the President's Point community here.
Yes.
And who would like to walk down and find a new pathway through a supposed city? Okay. All right, we're going to walk down President's Point and just explain to the people there that we don't appreciate racism. We don't appreciate calling the police on young black men, and that we want a change in Annapolis, and we don't want to live in the most unequal city in the world. We're going to walk. Okay. All right, we're walking.
Are we walking?
No justice. No race. Justice.
Yeah, let's use that.
Hold on.
We'll trade her out.
Matter. Black lives 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 matter.
Hey guys.
Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Can I get here? I'll take these and just stick it in this bag so you don't have to carry them. They're just extra.
I didn't want to leave it. Taylor.
Thank you so much.
Breonna Taylor.
Which one? Which one? Or Vicky's one.
White silence equals violence. White silence equals violence. White silence
White silence equals violence. White silence equals violence. No peace. Police. No peace. Police. No peace. Police. No peace. Police. No peace. Police.
Say his name.
George Floyd.
Say his name.
George Floyd.
Say his name.
George Floyd.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor. I can't breathe. 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 No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace.
Hands up. Don't shoot. Hands up.
Don't shoot.
Hands up.
Don't shoot.
Hands up.
Don't shoot.
Hands up.
Don't shoot. Don't shoot.
White silence equals violence.
White silence equals violence.
White silence equals violence.
White silence equals violence.
White silence
White silence
equals violence.
equals violence.
No justice.
No peace.
No racist.
Police.
No justice.
No peace.
No racist.
Police.
Say his name.
George Floyd.
Say his name.
George Floyd.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor.
Ahmaud Arbery.
Ahmaud Arbery.
Ahmaud Arbery.
Ahmaud Arbery. Freddie Gray.
Richard W. Collins.
Richard W. Collins.
The third.
Third.
Richard W. Collins the third.
Richard W. Collins the third.
These are men and women who have been killed in the name of racism. White silence equals
Violence.
White silence
Equals violence. Equals violence. Equals violence. Equals violence. Equals violence.
Wake up, Annapolis.
Stop the racism, Annapolis.
White people.
White people.
Black people don't have to prove they're good enough. Black people don't have to prove they're good enough. Racism is your problem.
Racism is your problem.
Racism is our problem.
Racism is our problem.
We must dismantle racism.
We must dismantle racism.
White people must dismantle racism.
White people must dismantle racism.
Crush white supremacy.
Crush white supremacy. Crush.
Crush white supremacy.
Crush white supremacy.
Crush white supremacy.
Crush white supremacy.
Annapolis.
Annapolis!
Why can't black children from Burger House go to the water?
Why can't black children walk on your street?
How about that? Stop calling the police and using them as a weapon.
Stop calling the police and using them as a weapon.
White silence equals violence.
White silence equals violence.
White silence equals violence.
White silence equals violence. White silence equals violence.
White people have dialogue. If you say you're not racist, come out and support Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives violence equals violence. George Floyd. George Floyd. George Floyd. George Floyd. Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud Arbery. Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor. Don't shoot. 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 Thank you. Equals violence. White silence equals violence. White silence equals violence.
Whose creek?
Our creek.
Whose creek?
Our creek.
Whose bay?
Our bay.
Whose bay?
Our bay.
Whose streets?
Our streets.
Whose streets?
Our streets.
Whose creek?
Our creek.
Whose bay?
Our bay.
White people, you're not better than everybody else because your skin is lighter. You do not own
Black is not a crime. Pay your fair share of taxes.
Exclusivity is not the American dream. Exclusivity is not the American dream.
Annapolis, Eastport Annapolis, the inequality capital of the world. We are here to tell you that white silence equals violence.
White silence equals violence.
Stop using the police as a weapon to protect your lawn.
Our bay.
Who's got a chance? I'm running out.
All right.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Hey, Susie.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
Democracy for white people? This is hard. Is democracy for everyone?
Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Black lives matter.
Whose street?
Our street.
Whose bay?
Our bay.
Whose creek?
Our creek.
Whose street?
Our streets.
Whose creek?
Our creeks.
Whose bay?
Our bay. Our bay.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No racist.
Police.
No justice.
No peace.
No racist.
Police.
No justice.
No peace.
Black lives
Matter.
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 White silence equals violence.
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 White silence equals violence. White silence equals violence.
Hey, hey. Ho, ho. These racist calls have got to go.
Hey, hey.
Ho, ho.
These racist calls have got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. These racist calls have got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. These racist calls have got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. These racist calls have got to go.
Hey, hey. Ho, ho. These racist calls have got to go. Black lives. Get those people.
Black lives
matter.
Black lives
Matter.
Trans lives matter.
Trans
lives matter.
Black lives matter.
Black lives matter.
Black.
Everybody, we're going to come back to where we were in the shade, and we're going to hear from Dewan.
We're going to hear from Dewan.
We're going to hear from Dewan.
People's Alderman Dewan Gay.
Alderman Dewan Gay.
And I want to know how many times Dewan's been stopped by the police. Yes.
Funny, I don't see Ross here.
Kind of stand and like look at it.
Right from right here. Cool.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, because they don't want anybody to know that.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, as things start to roll around, I really want to thank everyone that came out, because it takes, complete pride to show up and stand up against something so controversial amongst your neighbors, especially when you've lived in a community for years. So commend yourselves, as mentioned, for taking the first step and saying no against racism. And I don't want you for a second to think that black neighbors are not here because they don't care. But that leaving here, as mentioned, it is our jobs to fight for public access to waterways. How hard is it? It's as simple as letting someone enjoy walking down to the beach. And if individuals think that may bring more crime, then they are the problem, because you should not view myself or my friends or any African American or minority based off of their skin color as a criminal. In this society, it has to stop. And it's extremely personal, because in this town that we all love so much of Annapolis, Maryland, it's so hard to overlook every day the daily racism through the sailboats and the enjoyment of downtown and just the trails that we have. But leaving here, dig deeper within ourselves and commit to, standing up against racism. It's 2020. It's not that hard. Just step in. If you see it happening, say something. We would do the same for you. I mean, that's my only axe leaving from here. We'll definitely come hard. We plan to meet with neighbors and legislators from the state, county, and local level to come up with a plan and the funding necessary to not only make public access to waterways here, but public access to waterways in our impoverished communities that has been completely neglected and abandoned for decades. So funding and putting money into those communities and making sure that Hawkins Cove has a livable shoreline where we're able to go and enjoy and kayak just like any other communities. Those are the fundamental things that we ask for, and it's really not that difficult. So again, I look forward to working with my colleagues on the state level, on the county level, and absolutely amongst the city council, and making some change and bringing our communities together. We've talked about it for far too long, this line, this imaginary line of that splits Ward 8 and Ward 6, and it's so simple for us to take the next step and get over that. So thank you guys so much for coming out here, and I really appreciate it.
So what do you think that what can we do right now? What can we do right now?
Asking, what can we do right now to help?
Well, I think what you're doing is taking the first step is important, but outside of that, you have to then look at action items. So many times I have had so many constituents come down to our city council for issues that are in regards to the Bay, and that are in regards to boating and things like that. But when it comes to issues of public access, those rooms are not full the same they were once before. So show up to our council meetings, submit public testimony, do it both on the state, county, and local level. You have to hit all three tiers. Advocate. That's the most important thing you can do. Your elected officials listen to you, and if they don't, vote them out. It's simple.
Yeah. Yes, vote them out. Carol,
What happened with the dock and the kayak launch that was going to be put at Hawkins Cove?
So I know last we met early in March, right before the COVID thing broke out, and the funding sources weren't there. But again, this is where it comes down to us making sure that our voices are heard and advocating for our dollars to go to certain and specific things. So again, I think just speaking amongst our colleagues and continuing to put pressure on our elected officials, myself included, and saying what we want is this, and it'll get done. It happens time and time again in this city. When people stand up for something in Annapolis, they get it done. So I know that it can be done.
Maybe that should be the next program, open space.
Another person would like to speak.
For the city and the County.
I think Harold wants to.
Harold, would you like to speak?
Hi there, I'm Greg Brennan from the Spa Creek Conservancy, and I want you to know that this spring we were talking to DNR about applying for a grant for water access for Hawkins Cove to redo living shoreline but primarily water access.
I remember that was proposed a long time ago, and the funding still hasn't come through.
Well, no, we were talking to DNR this spring, so we're still working on a new.
Repeat the question, please.
Oh,
The question was that people have been talking about this for years, but it hasn't been done yet. So our officials have not made it a priority.
Right.
You're talking about the living shoreline project that the Spot Creek Conservancy is trying to get funding for at the top of Hawkins
But they're
Cove.
also going to put in a dock.
Well, and I want to ask
Well,
you about that.
no, there are two ways we can go through funding. We can go through funding there was a funding source that was exclusively living shoreline, and we can't have any people there messing up the plants.
Oh, that was part of the original. It was the same funding that did the other living shoreline.
Yes.
They didn't want to have anything to do with a public dock.
True, but we're going for a different funding source that is primarily public access, and that's what we're focusing on now. And that.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to see more demonstrations for access and those issues, and stay really within racism as a whole and all the things that are going on with that. I'd like to hear Harold Boyd, if you'd like to speak.
And I want to thank everybody for coming out here. I think this is really
We love you, Harold.
this is important to me and my peers. And as the days went on after that, if we were being honest, I was reading all the comments on the neighborhood forum. I chose not to respond because they were one-sided comments. You know, they said they were asking, they were saying that it was private property, but you didn't know if we had permission to be there. You never asked that question, or I would have people comparing their situations. And I was thinking, well, you at least had the opportunity of someone walking down to you, informing you that it was private property. We didn't get any of those. And I understand if we were out there hanging out for an hour or even 20 minutes, but it was a quick walk through. And as we were walking back out, the police officer was pulling up on us. And we watched him slow down. And it's all about reading the room right now. So as a black American and a teenager, not a teenager, I'm sorry, a male, my heart dropped. I said, oh my gosh, not again. What did we do? And in my mind, I'm like, we didn't do nothing wrong. I know we didn't do nothing wrong. And I want to say that we were very thankful for how the officer reacted, because how we're looking at society today and we keep watching videos over and over and over, it could have been handled in a different manner. It could have gotten worse. But he was very calm. He was very polite. He told us what was going on, and we were calm back to him, and we were all just trying to be on one understanding, and I'm happy that the outcome came out like that. But what we're trying to get people to understand is you have to read the room. You have to read the room. And for the history that is behind Annapolis and the concealed racism that is within Annapolis, that was a serious situation for us. Because, like I said, what if I was not with an alderman? What if I wasn't with a teacher? What if I wasn't with a DNC delegate? What if I wasn't myself? And I didn't know how to react in that situation. It could have went ugly. And the fact that they referred to us as teenagers, it had me thinking, well, what if I was 15 years old? Yeah. It had me reminiscing about the first time that I was harassed by a police officer. The first time I was stopped and frisked and I knew I didn't do anything wrong. It caused PTSD all over again. And I'm saying this from my voice. I want people to understand my pain, that the relationship with police officers and being black in America is not a positive relationship. And we are trying our best to fix that relationship. But it takes a whole community. Yeah. So we would have respected the community member to come to us I don't know if you all know this, but this is private property, just how a lot of people on the comments were saying that people came to us and told us, but we didn't get that opportunity. And we are working together every day, every hour, every second to fix all of the communities in Annapolis. We want Annapolis to be the blueprint. We want Annapolis to be the perfect society. But it's not just going to take all of us that is here right now. It's going to take the whole Annapolis if we really want change. And as my brother said, the state, the local, the county level, we have to go all cylinders if we really want change. Change doesn't happen in a day. Change doesn't happen in a month. Change doesn't happen in a year. It happens over time. The stuff that we are fighting about today was the same stuff Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Minister Farrakhan, Marcus Garvey, the list goes on, we're fighting about. We want equality, equity. We want justice. Those three words are important. Everyone has to understand that. We have to understand that the playing field wasn't fair. It wasn't fair for 400 years. But if we keep on neglecting it and not doing anything about it, it's going to stay like that. Now is the time to change. And that's why I keep saying I'm happy that people are behind us and supporting us. It's going to take more. But this is the first step. And we're past the first step. Let's take it to the second step. And let's bring real change.
When
are you running for office?
After my second degree.
It's a good idea if we walk down President Street and show our support. Okay, we're going to walk down President Street and show our support to the rest of the communities that white silence equals violence, and continue this march. There will be a lot more marches in the future, and I hope to see everybody out there. Thanks for coming. We're gonna win this fight finally.
All right.
So yeah, it's still live. Hold the thing.
I can hold the mic.
Okay, cool. Oh yeah, good to see you.
Oh, we brought chalk.
Tools. No, it's that.
You know where our tripods are yet?
I put them away.
All right.
And I have
Someone's got to lead it.
Who wants to pull this?
I will.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Walk
Good, how are
behind
you?
it and
Good.
say it.
It's been a minute. Yep. Just a little.
Let's
All
do
right.
this.
Ready?
Anybody wants to say anything?
I gotta get going in like 15.
Hello, hello. White silence.
Equals violence. Equals violence. Equals violence. Equals violence.
Equals violence. Old white people that only understand
We're doing tax rate. It's too much.
Yes, I needed to mention. I'm gonna mention to Vicky too. The point of that.
I don't like this. This reminds me of military.
I was gonna say the point of a private community like that is so that they can do that.
Yeah, that's the whole.
It's so that they can honor their code.
Yes.
And not let people use it. Like they pay double taxes. They pay property management taxes.
So that they keep the
So that they can keep out of the community.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Specifically.
What?
Specifically keep.
Yeah.
Keep the blacks out.
But it's like, when we talk about like gated communities, like that's the point of a gated community, you know?
Black lives matter. 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 Black matter. Black lives matter. Matter. Black lives matter. No peace. No peace. Police.
Yeah. Where we going?
This is what democracy looks like.
We might need to slow down a little bit.
No peace. Police.
I'm getting that marching band outside.
You want to do a megaphone?
Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Hey, so we can cut down here, and we'll end up right at our spot.
Black lives matter.
Black lives matter.
Black lives matter.
Black lives matter.
White silence
Equals violence.
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 No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace. No peace. No peace. George Floyd. George Floyd. George Floyd. Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor. Indict, convict, send the killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Indict, convict, send the killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Indict, convict, send the killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Indict, convict, send the killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. When we say the whole damn system is guilty as hell, we say that because what you see up front is police. What you hear about is police. But what we neglect is what happens in the courtroom. And how they continue to let black men and women be murdered with no consequence. Indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Black lives, 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 no justice, no peace, no racist, police, no justice, no peace, no racist, police, no justice, no peace, no racist, police, no justice, no peace, no racist, police. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Whose responsibility is it to stop racism?
Ours.
White people need to stop racism. White people need to stop racism.
White people need to stop racism.
White people need to stop the whole thing. Why can't I remember all this other?
I know all the
All the times we need like a cheat sheet.
We need to go to DC and study for a whole week.
There's
There's who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. That's a good one. You know that one? It's like, who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. Yeah.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
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 Who keeps us safe?
We keep
us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Black lives
Matter.
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 No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No racist.
Police.
No justice.
No peace.
No racist.
Police.
No justice.
No peace.
No racist.
Police.
Black lives
Matter.
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 Black lives
Matter. What's his name? George Floyd. What's his name? George Floyd. What's her name?
Breonna Taylor.
What's her name?
Breonna Taylor. Our street.
Yeah. Did you say you have to go? I could take the microphone if you want.
Oh, we're looping around to the cars that and then I'll probably have to head out.
Equals
Me?
violence.
I'm just here.
Equals violence.
I don't know.
Equals violence.
I guess whatever my mom's
Equals
doing.
violence.
You know?
Equals
I guess
violence.
PSA, I guess you could say as well.
Equals violence.
Moms are good actors.
Equals
Yeah.
violence.
Yeah.
Women change the world.
Yeah.
No peace.
Pissed off moms.
No peace.
Pissed off moms really do a lot.
No peace.
George Floyd. George Floyd.
What's her name?
George Taylor.
Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
No peace. No
I mean,
peace.
there was somebody was mentioning the other day that when after emancipation, but before women gained access to the ballot box, women would carry guns to guard their men in line because they were the only ones that could vote on behalf of the community.
Wow.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
Hands
That they would
up.
have to do that?
Don't shoot.
Protect
Hands
people in
up.
line to
Don't
vote?
shoot. Hands up.
Don't shoot.
Hands up.
Don't shoot.
Hands up.
Don't shoot.
Hands up.
Don't shoot.
Hands up.
Don't shoot.
Hands up.
Don't shoot.
Hands up. Hands up.
Don't shoot.
Is your mom in the group or is she?
Yeah, she's up front there. I'm between groups, you could say, because I just moved back here.
Oh, wow.
I can't breathe. Stop the racism in sports. Stop the racism in sports. Stop the racism in sports.
Amazing. I don't really walk back here very much.
It's amazing how quickly.
Stop the racism in sports. Equal violence. Equal violence.
No justice for stolen land! No justice on 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 stolen land! End the American experiment!
yourselves. Hydrate yourselves.
Stay hydrated.
Don't forget to hydrate.
All right.
Thanks,
There you go.
Arundel Patriot.
Thank you, Chrissy, for being my
Harold.
producer.
Thank you, Dawn.
Oh, we can turn it off. Are we good? Thank you.
And are you on the council or something? Which council?
Thank you.
City council. I'll look you up.
I need my purse. I don't know.